I'm Holly Schindler, an award-winning author as well as freelance editor, writing coach, and writing instructor. I'm also an indie author and publisher. Now, if you are self or independently publishing this book of yours, you already know the importance of a great cover. But today we're hitting something readers don't consciously notice, and it's the typography. Now, these are tiny details, but they do make a book feel professionally published. Most readers couldn't tell you why one book interior looks polished and another doesn't, but they can absolutely sense the difference. Now, I'm going to use my book on narrative transportation as the example text here, just to let you know what you're looking at. But the first typography tip I want to start with is really the most obvious one, and that's drop caps. And a drop cap is that oversized first letter at the beginning of a chapter. It is just a classic design element. And what you want to do is to, put your cursor in the paragraph where you're going to place your drop cap. Come over to the properties panel on the right. Under your paragraph options, you're going to find drop cap number of lines. That's going to tell InDesign how many lines down you want this drop cap to go. So 1 is obviously going to do nothing. It's just going to keep it on that introductory line. But if you start upping the number of lines, 2 obviously begins to give you that drop cap effect. 3. Now over to the right of that drop cap number of line options, you'll see this option, drop cap 1 or more characters. Now, this can become important if you start a chapter with, say, a line of dialogue, because if you have your character selection set to 1, it's only going to drop cap the quote marks. So if you set it to 2, then you get your first letter actually dropped as well. Now, I have seen in books where some publishers will actually just eliminate this first quotation mark, because clearly when you get to the end of the dialogue, you know that that is a piece of dialogue. That is a stylistic choice that is up to you. I generally like to include the quote mark so that the reader immediately knows that they're reading some dialogue. But that, again, it's a stylistic choice, and it is totally up to you how many lines you go down, how many characters you're going to drop. But I do want to say this is something you want to use sparingly, really just at the beginning of chapters, and it will instantly give your interior a more elegant or finished look. Okay, now the next tip is don't indent the first paragraph of a new section. Now the reason for not indenting this first paragraph after any kind of heading or scene break, if you've got a piece of fiction, is that the scene break itself already tells the reader they are starting something new. So every paragraph after gets the first line indent, but the first one stays flush left. And if you are laying out hundreds of books professionally, there are some automated ways to do this with paragraph styles. But for most of us indie authors, a manual adjustment works. It is perfectly fine, and it just takes a second. You're going to go over here again to the properties panel on the right, under paragraph, first line left indent. Just come in here and manually set that to 0. There you go. Okay, now I want to look at small caps. Small caps are another hallmark of just professional typography. Instead of using full-size capital letters, small caps give you capital letter forms that are designed to match the height and weight of lowercase text. Here's a nice short line. We'll use this as an example. You simply want to highlight the text you want in small caps. Again, come on over to the Properties panel on the right. Under your character options, you see all these options here at the bottom with your T. Sometimes you may need to activate that by clicking those 3 dots for more options. You see all your options regarding capitalization, strike through, underlining. That's down here too. Look at this one right here, small caps. Just click that, and instantly all of those letters are set to your small cap typography. Now, where would you use this actually in a book? They are perfect for, say, signs and notices, newspaper headlines, maybe some formal invitation, something, maybe you've got an official document in your novel. You can also use that for the first few words following your drop cap at the beginning of chapter. That looks really nice too. Also, I did want to let you know, if you're not seeing this character option, You can get to it by clicking Window, Type in Tables, Character. Okay, now one thing I do want to mention here is that true small caps depend on the font. So if the font you're using has real small caps, InDesign will use them. If not, InDesign will kind of fake them by shrinking full capitals, which can sometimes look thinner and a little less professional. It's just something to be aware of. Another tip is that you can actually give these small caps a little breathing room, just a little extra refinement here. Now, small caps can look better with just a touch of tracking. Tracking is the overall spacing between letters across a selection of text. Okay, so increasing tracking will spread the letters farther apart, and decreasing will bring the letters closer together. So let's say we want to spread these letters out just a little bit. You can highlight this text here that is in small caps. And again, we're going to head back to this Properties panel. Under Character, find Tracking. It is this VA icon here. And you can increase the value. Say we go up 20 for just a subtle increase, maybe up to 30. You could possibly go, say, up to 50 if the small caps look super tight. But the point is, small caps can look better with a little extra tracking because they are made up of all capital letter forms, which can feel visually just a little dense. Now, the next thing I want to hit is curly quotes. Now, to be honest, for most of us, this isn't going to be much of a problem because most indie authors are going to import a Word document, and Word already uses curly quotes by default. But professional books do use smart or curly quotes. It is a small detail, but straight quotes instantly make text sort of feel like it came from a word processor instead of a professionally typeset book. So if smart quotes are enabled, InDesign will insert curly quotes automatically as you type. And this becomes important because you are going to do some editing once you get your book in InDesign. You know, we as authors, we can't help ourselves, right? I have never put a book in InDesign, simply formatted it and exported and sent it straight to my printer. That has never happened to me. I have always tinkered with the book a little bit as I was formatting, and I'm sure you're going to too. So anytime you type a new quotation mark, you do want it to be curly. You want InDesign to put in those nice curly quotes. You can turn them on by going up to InDesign up at the top, the actual word InDesign, Preferences, Type. What you want to do is make sure that Use Typographer's Quotes is checked. And then every time you type quote, you've got nice curly quotes. M dashes. Do not use two hyphens when you need to type an M dash. Now, if you are used to writing in Word, you are also going to be used to typing two hyphens and having Word automatically convert them into an M dash. InDesign does not do that. If you need to insert an M dash while editing, we're going up to Type at the top of the screen, Insert Special Character, hyphens and dashes, M dash. Now I want to address hair spaces around M dashes. InDesign has all sorts of options about inserting white space. You can go to Type, Insert White Space, and you have all sorts of options here, right? I have seen some books that did have a bit of white space at either side of an M dash. And this is exactly the point at which you can begin fussing with a book to a point where you actually begin to do too much, right? Now, the standard American style, which is used by publishers following the Chicago Manual of Style, is to have zero space on either side of an M dash. So for your own audience, I would probably just keep this simple here and not start inserting hair spaces around M dashes. I would leave them as is. All right, the next thing I want to address is the ellipsis character. I want you to know there is an actual ellipsis character in InDesign and you should use it, okay? So the way you find it is to go back up to our type at the top of the screen, insert special character, symbols, ellipsis. Okay, now I want you to see something here. I'm going to insert a space. I'm going to do it again here. just so you can see the two different versions. They are quite close, right? The 3 periods and the ellipsis character look pretty similar, okay? The reason you want to use the ellipsis character rather than typing 3 separate periods is because it will behave as a single character. So you will be far less likely to have any kind of spacing or line break issues using the ellipsis character. Okay, and finally, justify your body text. Okay, take a look at the body text in almost any traditionally published novel. The left and right edges of the text block are flush. Now, I occasionally do see self-published books with more of this jagged right edge, which, happens all the time when we're working in Word. Unless it is an intentional design decision, it will make your interior look slightly less polished. So you just want to make sure that you have selected justify with last line align left. Justifying your body text is just one of the simplest ways to give your pages that bookstore feel. Okay, before we wrap up, I just want to leave you with a final thought. If you are an avid reader, you have spent your whole life absorbing these typographic conventions without realizing it. You know what a professionally typeset book feels like, even if you couldn't necessarily point to drop caps or curly quotes or justified text and explain that's why, right? So there are times when you might intentionally break one of these conventions. Of course, as a book designer, you can decide that doing something unconventional better serves your story or creates a specific effect you want. Now, that is a design choice. But if you're breaking convention simply because you didn't know that convention existed, your readers are going to notice, and not in the way you want. Sometimes something as simple as a jagged right margin, straight quote marks, or inconsistent typography can be enough to pull an experienced reader out of the story. And there you have it. That is the goal of good book design, not to call attention to itself. So if you want your book to look polished and professional, you want it to have that bookstore feel, you want it to look like something that came from a traditional publishing house, you want your readers to forget the typography is even there. You want them to be immersed in your words and your characters and your story. That's going to do it for this edition of InDesign for authors. If you have a specific question about using InDesign, something that is a particular pain point or, something that just gives you fits every time you open InDesign up, please just drop it in the comments. I would be more than happy to build a video around it. I'll catch you guys in the next video. In the meantime, go write something.